Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, we're going to talk about how some people value stuff or material possessions, and some people don't, and how one way isn't better, and the sort of conflict this causes in couples, and how to reframe how you think about your partner's perception of stuff. Before we get to that, please do subscribe. The most recent subscriber-only episode was on dysfunctional families and how people who understand that their families are dysfunctional from childhood are in a slightly better place than those who don't. And I will describe the various phenomena that I see around each of those two paths surrounding family dysfunction and your awareness of it. Anyway, okay, so let's go to the topic at hand. So there was an interesting conversation in my Facebook group, which you should subscribe to. That's a separate subscription, remember, from Spotify, because those two things are not linked. Facebook and Spotify aren't linked. But if you want to join the Facebook group, we talk about a lot of interesting topics. I engage in there a lot. The link is in all of my episode descriptions to join that. So anyway, there was an interesting discussion about stuff, and somebody who was more of an HSP, highly sensitive person, was saying basically kind of stuff doesn't matter, live below your means, so then you have security later on, and you can really enjoy the fruits of your labor later on in your life, and this is a common sort of thing, with there's a whole bunch of, I've talked about this, the financial independence, retire early, Reddit, FIRE acronym, and Mr. Money Mustache, and all of these different people who think that, yes, like you should not buy a lot of stuff, you should never buy a new car, you should never, have, your mortgage should never be too big, and instead you should basically be saving up so that you have security for later on. And the same sort of people generally think that experiences are better to spend your money on, better in quotes, than stuff, right? So that if you were going to travel, let's say, that would be a better thing to do than buy a new car. Okay, so this is kind of a philosophy that, sounds pretty good. It sounds like it would be like healthier or something than another philosophy of buying the new car and buying the big house, right? So let's set aside the idea of security. Let's assume that somebody wants to work and feels they will be able to work. And I know, of course, anything could happen at any time to anybody. But let's just say that it's a more usual situation where a person says, okay, I really want to buy a lot of stuff and I want to work until 65 or beyond to pay for it, and I have a thriving career now. And you know what? I let's say have enough money, really, even if I had to retire earlier than that, I would have enough money, right? So then it turns into like a philosophical sort of debate, and that's what I see in a lot of my clients, where one partner thinks that it is shallow to spend money on things, and the other person thinks that it is not, and the person, and this really relates a lot to my podcast on class, when one person wants to jump to the next socioeconomic class and have all the signifiers of the next class, and the other one doesn't. And next, I mean the higher class. And you could go back and listen to that. But it's interesting because it's just like religions, or it's just like any belief system. When I'm working with couples, the idea isn't to say like that one way is better, because why? Why is one way better? If somebody wants a new car, it could mean many things to them. And I say this really transparently as somebody who is more like the former person, the person in the group who wanted to live below their means and have like a crappy car and, not the biggest house they could afford because they like to save or invest or what have you as a security. That's how I personally identify with my Dodge Caravan, as cool as that car is, But over time, I've realized it's really just a belief system. It's something that works for me, but it's just really a belief system, and it doesn't have any greater value. It's not right or wrong. There are plenty of people that I work with when couples fight about this stuff. There are plenty of people who are just as happy buying a new car as the other person is saving money or going on a trip. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there would be different sorts of different sorts of things that give people joy. And it's really like a love language. It's like a gift love language. The people who like stuff, it's like they have a gift love language. And the gift is an expensive thing, they like it, and it's really, it could be based on culture. It could be based on how they grew up, all of the things I talked about in the class podcast. So like if you never had a car, I didn't have a car growing up until I was a teenager. And so to me, any car is good. But there are people who would have an exact opposite perspective, that since they had no car at all, they want to have the best car. And they get a lot of joy out of having the an awesome, like a Porsche or something, And so that's not bad. That is what makes them happy. Why not? Like really, why not? And it's the sort of thing where it's easy to get on your high horse, and it's easy for the person who likes the things to look down on the other person as like a joyless buzzkill. And it's easy for the person who likes to save to say that the other person is irresponsible or shallow. But those things aren't real. Those are just a lens through which a person views an opposing belief system, really no different than how Republicans view Democrats or Democrats view Republicans or what have you. So what you need to do if you are in a marriage where you have differing perspectives on this is you really need to try to dig deep to empathize with your partner. And you need to look at the origin of why they feel as they do. And that can make you understand them a lot more. Also, just even a love language framing can make you understand them a lot more because, love languages, there's no one that's like better than the others. I mean, I've said personally that I think physical touch is the most important in a sense because you cannot outsource it. That is, it's the only one that you can't get from anybody else, especially sex, but that aspect of the love language. But in terms of the other love languages, you're not going to get too far saying to a therapist, like my love language is words of affirmation, hers is quality time, so mine's better, so I think we should just do words of affirmation because like hers is kind of stupid. Like obviously that seems ridiculous. The entire point is just to understand your partner better. And the way that you think about money should be more in this framing. You're trying to understand your partner better. You're trying to see why they think as they do. You're not trying to train them to think like you. You're trying to maybe reach a compromise, certainly, because one person wants to spend $50K on a car and the other person wants to spend 10 on a car, that's going to be a pretty big difference. But the compromise can be reached much more quickly and with less hostility when both people are trying to deeply empathize with the other. So there are a lot of people who think, for example, men who are more in the financial independence, retire early sort of mindset that think that their wife is shallow for wanting to go shopping. And when we really talk about what shopping means to her, they change their mind. And I've seen this happen, like somebody who says, I never had the right clothes and I didn't really fit in. And the only times that I remember being happy as a kid were once I had my first job and then I got like the right jeans and the right shoes and the right, shirt. And I finally looked okay and I fit in. And it was such a relief. And I want the kids to feel like that they can always fit in too. They don't have to be a pariah. And, it's just something that brings me joy is that I have the ability now to keep up with trends in a way that I never was as a kid, right? Because I didn't have the money and or my parents didn't value it. That man then feels a hell of a lot different about his wife shopping. Because he can understand it. He can empathize with how she grew up. He can think, wow, I've seen pictures of her when she was a child. I'm picturing her, like at that age, feeling like she didn't fit in, feeling like everything was terrible and that nobody looked at her like she was worth anything because she didn't have the right clothes. And I could see now why it's a source of comfort. And you know what? I'm proud of myself that I can make the money to give it to her, or that we together make the money that she can then be happy in this regard. And what about the other perspective? So somebody who thinks, let's say, that his wife is a joyless buzzkill because she's always wanting to hoard money. What if he understands why she values, let's say, all the money going into the retirement account, if she saw her parents have to depend on, the handouts from the person and their siblings, and not have any flexibility and always be so anxious about money. Or if she saw what she felt was irresponsible spending by the parents. There's always going to be a reason. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a reason that somebody has their worldview on money. There's not a good way. There is not a bad way. As long as somebody makes enough money to keep up with their lifestyle, we're not talking about somebody who's like gambling away the family finances, or somebody who is unemployed but just leased a new car. Not talking about that sort of thing. We're talking about a situation in which in reality, people would be evenly split. Some people would say, yeah, man, you made it. Go get yourself a Range Rover. And other people would be like, oh, sure, definitely sock that away into retirement. We're not talking about a situation in which 99% of people would be like, that's irresponsible spending. So when we're not talking about a situation that's in the extremes or seems pathological to the casual observer, then you got to just consider it a difference in belief systems. And a difference in belief systems, there's no right and there's no wrong. It's so important to understand that it really is just like a Catholic person saying a Jewish person is wrong or vice versa. There is no right or wrong. There is just a philosophy of money, and the best that you could do, the best thing for your marriage to do, is to understand the ideology, the development of this worldview about money. Because once you can understand where it's coming from, then the person seems so much more sympathetic. Your partner becomes a sympathetic character instead of somebody who is basically threatening your way of life with their philosophy. And so instead of being against each other, it's the two of you, not one against the other, but both of you on the same side against misunderstandings about money. So it's like the couple is coming together and saying, we don't want to have any more misunderstandings about money. We want to deeply understand each of our individual philosophies about money, where they came from, and how they could possibly work together. Maybe we could get a car that isn't quite as new, but isn't a clunker, and isn't like the most practical, cheapest car on the lot, but also isn't, a new, Lamborghini, right? I mean, there's something in between. Or maybe we could do some experiences, but we could also, get the kids the new video game console, or what have you. So the point is to look at most things, almost all things, are just belief systems that were passed down or that we created in response to a way that we were raised that we didn't like. Some people just wholly take their parents' belief system, which is another understandable thing. So like, for example, you're thinking, well, yeah, but I mean, my husband, it's not like he was raised poor or something, like he was rich, family's rich. They're all just spoiled rich people, just buy whatever they want. Yeah, but like, first of all, it's pretty fucking understandable then, isn't it? That he's not out to get you, that this is like a philosophy that has worked for his parents, and also like still you can get deeper at what spending money means to him. What does the new car mean? Maybe truly he is at his job that he really doesn't like, and the thing that he really derives joy from is knowing that that job can buy him a new car. Maybe he loves the new car that much. I mean, really, people love cars. I mean, it seems silly to people who don't, but sure, people love houses. People love cars. People love jewelry. Nowadays, more and more young people are saying they don't want a diamond for ethical reasons or whatever for a engagement ring. They don't even want an expensive ring at all. But like 20 years ago, it would be... It was just a totally different culture. And of course you had a diamond for an engagement ring. Of course it was understood that that was obvious. And there were these rules like 2 months salary for the man should be the engagement ring or whatever. And now there's just a totally different philosophy around it, and people just don't care in the same ways. And so it's not like that was wrong then and this is right now. And diamonds or expensive non-diamond rings may come back into favor in the next generation. Who knows? And they still are in favor in many cultures. But the point is, any time that you can see your partner as having a philosophy that originated in their upbringing, and oh, by the way, so what are some, just back to what I was saying before, just in case you're like, well, what about the rich guy who's just a spoiled rich guy? Maybe he works purely for the joy of buying the things, which is like having a gift love language in reality. Maybe he has wonderful memories of engaging with these things with his family and wants to pass that down. For real. I mean, people love things. If you're not a thing person, it'll be a real mind blower to kind of realize this. A lot of people have wonderful memories of things. They really, really do. They have wonderful memories of their family moving into a big new house and how it was awesome and their friends thought they were the bomb and they had parties at their pool and like the fact that their parents were able to upgrade to a new house was considered awesome. I mean, that's a thing. That's like a real thing. And so that person then, when they get older, they want to give their own child that experience. But if you were raised and to look down on massive expenditures and your parents taught you to live below your means and y'all never upgraded a house and you just, I say upgraded again in quotes, and you stayed in a smaller house than your peers, but let's say you thought that was good and your parents were making a good decision, you really respected your parents and what they told you of their financial decisions and philosophies, then of course both of you are going to be on your high horse about the other one. I'm watching this show, Fleischman is in Trouble, and it really speaks to this issue a lot. It's a really good show that you guys should watch about, it was based on a book about the Fleischman is the title character and he's divorcing or has divorced his ex-wife, and they have a lot of philosophical differences. There's a lot of stuff that I talk about in terms of relationship issues that it's interesting to watch the show and see how that manifests in the couple. So that is a recommendation from me, and talks about this. And of course, a million other, media to talk about the financial disparities, and financial fights and different philosophies around money in couples. This is not like a new idea, but hopefully this podcast episode gave you a little bit of a different way to think about it, somewhat less judgmentally, which is always really, really important when you're trying to get along with your spouse, is not to be on your high horse and not to think that your philosophy is somehow better or healthier. All right, I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.